We live in a world now where we have more and more um, variety and accessibility to kosher products throughout the year. Certainly, those of us who are living in London or living in other metropolises where there are many Jewish people. It's not always been like that. And the proliferation of items that are kosher for Pesach. It's funny, and any other given year, people would walk down the aisles of Kosher Kingdom and roll their eyes and say to themselves, oh, do we really need to have even that kosher for Pesach? And now suddenly we're turning around with a dearth for some of capacity of being able to purchase things. The heart of Pesach is having a experiential period of time. And that experiential period of time is what ingrains Pesach into our blood. It is the doing is the memory. Who doesn't remember their Seder nights because of what happened? Who read the Seder? Who led the Seder? Who spilled the wine? Whose Haggadah got to be chosen? How were our homes turned over and the dishes brought out and we started making mayonnaise from scratch? I assume I'm not the only one who had to go through that. The koshering, which is done for Pesach, of our utensils, the kiddush cup, whatever it might be. That is what makes Pesach Pesach. Going and purchasing the items that we only have just over this period of time, buying the cheeses that you can't pronounce, that's all part of the Pesach experience. And it's valuable. And it's cherished. And sometimes it could cost an arm and a leg. That's also part of how we remember Pesach as well. Who can't remember the first time they had shmura matzah? When I mean shmura matzah, I mean the hand-baked stuff, which of course definitely will leave a taste in your mouth, as does the maror. But it's not the same thing as the core of making sure you have the provisions available for you for Pesach. And there's a difference between what is the right thing to have in our home, the right products to buy, and under circumstances which are extreme, what is acceptable to get by on, to have the Pesach, to not lose out, to not pass over Pesach. That is the balance that the chief rabbi and the London Beis Din are trying to strike. We are not going to pass over, even though we might be in isolation. And we'll talk later on as we get closer to various ways that we can have a connectivity going into Pesach to make sure we can have virtual seders and different experiences before Yom Tov comes in. And of course, we'll discuss that, things that we can do. But keeping Pesach going has always been the line our people has held. And the Beis Din and the chief rabbi have produced this document specifically in order to enable that to happen. And therefore, the list, which doesn't include everything, is very clear, where we can have flexibility if a person isn't able to access or has what we call lachatz, has tremendous pressure and concern to not be outside more than is necessary for whatever reason, whether it's just following the government guidance, which is admirable, or it's because they are specifically need to isolate. It doesn't matter. All these products are not only acceptable, but are what can be purchased under the circumstances. It is a good list. Will you be able to have, based upon it, everything? Clearly not. We are not saying that kitniyot can be thrown out the window because of what's happening. But what you can do is have accessibility to items which you might not have had under the circumstances normally. This is what I would consider to be leadership, coming from the chief rabbi, coming from the London Bezdin, and is extremely important that you guys who are listening spread the word and pass it around to other people who might not have access to either communications from the center, or simply might think to themselves it's either all or nothing. Well, my friends, it's not either all or nothing. The core has to remain. The Seder has to happen. However, how it happens under the circumstances needs a little bit of ingenuity and needs a little bit of ensuring that the pressures that life is under the circumstance is not going to be about Pesach, but rather be about the world situation and our own family and community challenges that we are facing at the moment. So that is kind of what I wanted to share at this point in time, and I want to use this opportunity now to field any questions that anyone might have as well. So we have a few people who are on Zoom, and we also have people as well who are tuning in on Facebook who might want instead to be able to word their questions or type their questions, and Jacqueline will be able to help field them as well. If anyone has any questions that they want to ask or any clarifications, that would be a good time to do so.
Rabbi, it just occurs to me.
Okay, sorry. So, Gary, do you want to ask first?
Thank you. Can the Seder plates be used by more than one household?
Yes and no. Yes, it could be, but no, it shouldn't be, because we don't want to share things from one household to the other household in order to avoid cross contamination. Much better that you can have one household to a Seder plate in order to avoid transferring things. And of course, it's completely wrapped in cling film or something like that. But even so, handing from one to the other, not ideal under the circumstances. We know that Ashley Kelman is providing Seder plates, so you don't have to go through the trouble of having to source all the items as long as he's able to access them. And I assume that Ashley will be able to say that that's absolutely correct as well. Richard, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, if you're using the products that are on that list, what effect, if anything, does it have on the crockery and the cutlery that you're using it with? Because ordinarily, we'd be told you couldn't use that.
Yeah. Okay. So for those on Facebook, Richard Gilbert has asked the question: if this is unusual times, does that mean as well that it's not so kosher for Pesach? And therefore, although you could rely on it this year, going forward, you might have to kasher your dishes, etc., etc. The Bezdin would not issue guidance, which would mean that you are in danger of having chametz on Pesach. The distinction between these products and other products is our guarantee that they are absolutely 100% kosher on Pesach, which is what one should be doing normally during the year, but you can't do under these circumstances. And therefore, although it's not the ideal way to do something, you have nothing to worry about in terms of your products. David, do you want to ask something? And therefore, although it's not the ideal way to do something, Sorry, David Salter, did you want to ask something, or are you okay?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah? Okay. Any other questions from anyone who is checking in via Zoom before I start looking up at Facebook to see if there's anything from there as well? Okay, so I'm going to take a look up on Facebook for a moment. See any questions which have come up. We look good. Ashley has made a comment. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Ashley was just sending some memories of stuff for Pesach as well. Martin Ellis has just asked about using a dishwasher over Pesach. Okay, so interestingly enough, this is not really a extenuating circumstance question, and more about whether dishwasher, generally speaking, could be used over Pesach. The answer is it depends on the dishwasher. Most dishwashers which are new and the racks, which are made of plastic, are whole and they have no cracks in them. If you have completely and thoroughly cleaned the dishwasher and you take the filter out of the dishwasher and you pour detergent down where the filter is and you completely use a cleaning agent on that filter, and then you wait 24 hours and do the hottest run, the most intense run with detergent on empty, the dishwasher is kosher for Pesach and can be used. So nothing to do specifically with the circumstances. That's just something which is able to be used generally speaking. David, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered, we're quite new to Zoom, and we used it the other day for a family Zoom all over the world.
Yes.
If it was turned on before the hug, could we leave it on during the Seder night?
Okay, so David, for those of you on Facebook, David Salter is asking, are we able to use Zoom or Facebook Live or whatever it might be on Seder night, even though the usage of technology is prohibited on Yom Tov, but in order that because people are isolated, would we be able to? So I'll say it like this, David. There's good news and bad news about living in the UK. The good news about living in the UK is that Seder actually comes in quite late in terms of the day. And to be honest, many of you lot will start your Seder before it's night time anyway, because that's what's convenient, so to make sure the families can be together. Well, if you're doing that anyway, then what a great opportunity this year to have your Seder before it's time to light candles and to have a Seder experience with all the family together. And then after Seder, after you've gone through your virtual Seder, then when it's time to light candles, then you can have a more shortened and quicker version of your own Seder without having any reason to violate Yom Tov or use Zoom or anything like that anyway. You see, it's a little bit about creativity of trying to come up with ideas rather than having to violate anything, but instead to work within the constructs, think out of the box whenever possible.
Thank you.
Yeah. Susan Marco has a question. Susan, if I remember, this is Susan on Facebook. If I remember correctly, you asked this question even on other years as well about a fishmonger. Using fish from a regular fishmonger during the year is a question about on Pesach, and basically we rely on only fish which has simanim, which has signs on it, which is very clear that it is kosher. That can be purchased from a regular fishmonger. Nothing changes therefore this year for Pesach. If the fish is identified and it's very clear it is kosher and it's not been cooked and it's washed thoroughly, you're able to use that raw fish from wherever you purchase it for Pesach as well. The same, by the way, I hope Ashley is covering his ears for this one, but the same is true when it comes to meat and poultry. You do not need to have kosher for Pesach raw meat or chicken. Any meat and chicken which is raw doesn't have chametz on it. As long as it's rinsed really well, it's absolutely fine to be used. Obviously, if you don't have any stock left, there's nothing wrong with kosher Pesach stuff as well. But that doesn't. You don't need specifically to buy something which is kosher for Pesach if it's raw meat or chicken. Obviously, it has to be kosher though. Any other questions? We have 2 minutes left before we conclude. We have. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Any other comments before we wrap up? Okay. So this has been a Pesach perspective, especially in light of the new guidance from the chief rabbi. It's good to keep everyone up to date about what's happening. and also good to make sure that we are staying connected with one another. Speaking of staying connected with one another, at 7:30 p.m. this evening, Rabbi Nick will be continuing with how to Jew it, which is Jewish practice in practice, and that's great to tune into. And then 7:15 a.m. tomorrow morning is our Shacharit Live. Everyone feel free to connect into it as well. And I hope that you know also that anything you guys need, you can always reach out to us. And very, very, very important as well at this time, you will have your Monday weekly email coming out tonight, which has in it the online sale of chametz. There will not be any in-person sale of chametz this year. All you need to do is click on the thing, fill it out quickly, and it is done. Get Pesach done is going to be the
It's
motto.
just landed. The email's been received.
What, Mark?
The email's just been sent out, so I've just received it. So it's there already.
It's there already. Go straight from here, click on it, have your dinner, get back on for Rabbi Nick, and it's all to play for. Wishing everyone a great evening and hoping to be in touch soon. And of course, stay well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's finished.
Right, not the comment.
Thanks.
What was the letter from the chief rabbi? What did it say?